Okay, welcome everybody to our second edition of Inside Guns with me, the Yankee Marshal. Or at least that is my online persona. I like to think the real me is a little different, not quite as self-centered or arrogant or condescending or any of those things, but some people might disagree. But that aside, I'd like to go ahead and get started with today's show by talking about everybody's favorite alphabet organization, the ATF. I think most of you out there are well aware that the ATF is an organization that is put in charge of arbitrarily enforcing a lot of unconstitutional gun laws. Now, I say unconstitutional gun laws because that is my own opinion. The only laws I believe that should be on the books regarding guns is you can't kill people for no reason with guns, or you can't rob somebody with a gun. You know, I just think you shouldn't be allowed to commit crimes with firearms. But then again, you just shouldn't be allowed to commit the crimes. So I'm not a big believer in a lot of gun laws. But the ATF is one I've always taken great exception with. They are a completely useless organization except for one thing. As far as stopping crimes, they don't stop any crimes. There's been no evidence to suggest that they have ever been successful in that. Or even having a reliable system to maintain the laws and records that we have. They've always been very bad at that even. But the one thing they're good at is making money, which is why the government likes to keep them around, because they do collect a lot of revenue through tax stamps, etc. Well, now they're trying to strengthen the ATF. There is a new bill by a Don Beyer. He's a Democrat from Virginia, and he has put forward a bill to strengthen the ATF. Now, they say this will allow the ATF to do their job more efficiently. They'll be able to, stop more crime, prevent illegal people from owning firearms. They'll be able to better perform their duties, all these other things. Well, what this bill really does, is it just gives the ATF more power to be an abusive organization. The things that they're proposing in this bill, they really won't do anything to stop crime or make society better or do anything about violence. They are just geared towards making this organization more of a clandestine organization. It gives them the ability to scrutinize FFLs more, to didn't revoke their license or deny their license without just cause, just being able to do it more arbitrarily. It allows them now to ignore laws that require limits on how long they can keep information on gun sales. They can keep it now indefinitely and create a better database for that information, which I think everyone knows out there. That means they can create a standing gun registry of every person in this country that owns a firearm, what they own, and it doesn't matter how long ago it was they bought it, they will keep those records. That's very important because of something here I'll talk about in a few minutes. Another thing it does is it gives access to gun information, sales information, etc. to anti-gun groups that have no basis in science, that have no actual credentials. Just if you are an anti-gun research group, you can harass FFLs, you can access information in the database, you can basically get a hold of the National Registry. Just if you say, I'm an anti-gun researcher or an anti-violence researcher. It really reduces the level of professional credentials you have to actually access this information. That's dangerous when you're keeping that kind of sensitive information on citizens. The main reason I think it is a danger is because of the database. Because here's the thing, they want to know who owns what out there. Because they want to be able to figure out, hey, if we do have problems in the future, where are these problems most likely to come from? Like if we pass laws that people don't like or that are unconstitutional, etc., where do we need to center our forces? Which police departments do we need to mobilize first before we make any announcements? That's one thing that's really bad about this bill to increase the ATF's power. Another thing that's really bad about this is that it does give the ATF more ability to scrutinize whether they give someone an FFL or whether they revoke an existing FFL. And remember, this is in an age where they're probably going to try to get rid of online gun sales. So if they can say, hey, we can now deny FFLs more easily, revoke FFLs more easily, well, once online gun sales become a thing of the past, which is their goal, well, then they can stop gun shops from popping back up to take that place. Since there's a vacuum there, there'll still be a demand for guns from the population. Well, people would want to open new gun stores in the state since people can't buy from out of state. Well, they just have to tie up your FFL requirement, or your license for long enough that there's no point in it. You can't wait it out. You can't go into business. They can also decide to target businesses inside states that they think are still good sources for guns for people who they think might be a problem in the future. So that is all very negative. Also, another negative thing about this bill is that it increases their funding. It basically, right now, the ATF has a cap on how much they can spend. Like if they decide, hey, we're going to try to go out and create a sting operation and catch a bunch of law-abiding American citizens, or at least otherwise law-abiding American citizens, and try to catch them on this little tiny detail and bring a lot of them into jail and take all their guns away, there used to be a cap on how much money they could spend on that. Well, this would remove those caps, giving them almost limitless funds to go out and turn ordinary citizens into felons just because they choose to arbitrarily enforce a law or a restriction in an arbitrary way. So I just wanted to point out to everyone right now what's going on in Congress as far as the ATF is concerned. I know a lot of people don't pay attention to that, but do pay attention, because this bill that is supposedly supposed to streamline and modernize the ATF, all it's really doing is turning them into even more of a clandestine organization than they've ever been before. Hey, the next topic I want to cover today is 80%ers. I get asked about 80%ers all the time. Do I think they're worth it? Do I own any? Do I plan on buying any? Well, let me tell you something about 80%ers. Based on my opinion, they're just not worth it. It's a lot of extra work. It's like someone gives me homework. If I go to a manufacturer and I buy a product, I don't want them to just hand me a bag of the parts and send me on my way. I want to put it together. Like if I go to the Dodge dealership and buy a car, I don't want them to go, okay, here's your chassis, here's the body, here's the electronics, here's the wheels, take it home, put it together. Oh, and by the way, you've got to drill the holes for the locks. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. That might be great for some people, but I really don't see an advantage to it. Now, when they were cheaper, when they first came out, there was an advantage. Nowadays, by the time you buy one of these kits, and even put a minimal amount of time into putting them together, you spend as much as you would have spent if you bought a Glock or something else, or a regular AR lower. And plus the polymer AR lowers, I'm just really not fond of, period. But when it comes to the handguns, I still think you're not saving anything because, like I said, it comes to about the same amount of money. The only real advantage would be having a gun that doesn't have a serial number. Some people think that that's an advantage. I don't know how that would really be an advantage over just filing a serial number off of a gun. Because remember, a serial number is a thing. It's just a registration mark. If someone comes after your guns, if the government shows up at your door, they're not going to go through with just a list of serial numbers and only take things that have the serial number. Anything they find, they're going to take. Now, I'm not saying there's going to ever be confiscation. I'm just saying that here's the point that I'm making. Not having a serial number on it wouldn't prevent it from being taken, any more so than having a serial number on it would guarantee it'd be taken if you hit it. So I really don't see a big advantage to these guns unless we get to a point where we can produce these in our homes through some type of injection mold kit you could buy, or maybe 3D printing, but that's a completely different topic. But right now, I just don't see a point in 80%ers, especially the entire kits that you buy with the whole gun, etc., blah, blah, blah. Don't see a point. Maybe if you have a gun already, like a Glock, whatever, and you have all the parts there, and you damage your frame, or you just don't like the way the frame is anymore, and you want to try something different, then I could see where they would be viable. To come and say, hey, I just want to put a new frame on this. But otherwise, as a thing unto themselves, I just don't see a great advantage in them. Like I said, having a gun with no serial number on it, I don't really see an advantage in that. I say if you've got guns you don't want to have seized, if you're actually someone who's worried about that, just make your guns to where people can't find them easily. That makes them just as hard to take as one without a serial number. Because, you can always say, I sold the gun, whatever. And that's the thing about private sales. That's why they're trying to get rid of private sales. But that's another topic for another video. But for right now, my opinion on 80% lowers is, yes, they might have a niche market. And yes, they might be of interest to some people who like to do it yourself. But for me, they're just like homework from a manufacturer. When I gave them my money, I want a product. I don't want them to send me home with chores. So I'm just not interested. All right, now we're to the part of the show where I want to answer an email from a viewer. Now, this email is not really a question, but it's kind of a statement towards something I said before, where I think the year 2021 is going to be a year of wins and how we need to come together as people. We need to come together as Americans and spread the importance of the Second Amendment. We need to stop being divisive. We need to stop fighting with the other side so much. We need to put our other political opinions on the back burner, or at least into their own category when we defend the Second Amendment. Well, I got an email from an Alan T. who says, if you think that what happened yesterday to those who attended the MAGA rally in Washington, D.C. will stop, you are sorely mistaken. This is only the opening salvos of what is coming, and it will not end well for the country. Well, I disagree. I guess I just have more faith in humanity than that. But also, I do believe that even though people do get upset, and this person is referring to the Million MAGA March that I had made a video on in Washington, D.C. this weekend, where thousands of Trump supporters showed up to voice their support of a sitting president. And I'm like, I see no problems with this whatsoever. I don't see it as a degradation of the system. I don't see it as a, collapse of society like some people are trying to portray it. You have to remember that in 2017, after Trump was inaugurated, they had an anti-Trump women's march that had 50 times as many people at least there, up to 100 times as many people. So depending on how many people you estimate at the MAGA rally, there's estimates anywhere between 5,000 and 13,000. And the photos I've seen of the crowd, bears that out. More towards the 13,000 end as far as I'm concerned. And that's a huge gathering. So, but like I said, the Women's March got 50 times that. So to pretend that this was somehow a sign of what's to come, I don't agree with that. Because here's the thing. These are very political moments, and people are showing up for political reasons. But politics don't define us. Politics is only a small percentage of who we are. It's only a tiny slice of our lives. And I think most people realize that. My politics no more define me than what gun I choose to carry defines me, or what gun you choose to carry defines you. We have political opinions. But most things in life we agree on. We agree that assaulting little old ladies is bad. Kicking puppies is bad. Now, there are a small group that will do those things, but most of us, regardless of our politics, when we see someone do that, we don't care if the person next to us is Republican or Democrat, as long as they're helping us hold the guy down or the gal down who did it while we beat them. So I do not really believe that people are as divided as a lot of people say. Maybe I've just got too much faith in humanity, but I think most people are good, not bad. I think most people agree on almost everything except for a few political issues. There are some serious political issues like abortion, because where you stand on abortion really defines what you think about life and where it begins, etc. But that's not what defines us either. Whether someone is pro-life or pro-choice, I don't think that defines them as a person. I don't judge a person by that political opinion because I can see where they come from on either side. Louis C.K. does a great bit on abortion that you should watch if you really want to understand the differences of those opinions. But like I said, I can understand them. And I don't think we're that divided. You can take the most staunch conservative and the most staunch liberal, put them in a room and have them write down everything they believe, or give them a test on, 1,000 different topics. I think they'd agree on 90% of them. And they'd be surprised at the things they agree on, because they'd find out, the left would find out, well, you know what? The right doesn't eat puppies. And the people on the right would find out, you know what? The people on the left don't want to live under a communist regime. There would just be all kinds of different things, misconceptions about each side that they would find out. So I think they would be able to come together on their similarities instead of being divided on their differences, except in political climates. Those rallies are political climates where we're expressing our political opinions. We're not saying, here's a snapshot of who I am. We're just saying, this is my political opinion. And I think that will fade. Now, I don't think anyone will be happy that isn't happy now with President Biden winning. When he becomes the president, if he becomes the president, which it looks like he's going to, I don't think everyone's going to be happy. When has everyone been happy whenever any president was seated? I seem to remember the people on the left throwing a temper tantrum that went well into 2017, 2018, and even 2019 when Donald Trump became president. I personally didn't care, really. I didn't like Clinton, so I was just happy to not have Clinton. And I was also aware that politics are such a small part of my life, and whoever's president has never really affected me that much. I'm not a rich corporation, so I'm not pandered to from any side. I'm not a pandered to minority, so I'm not pandered to by any side. So it just doesn't affect my life too much who happens to be at the wheel of the boat right now, unless they veer way off course. So, like I said, maybe you're right. Maybe people won't come together. Even though I think that that's in our nature. Like I said, whenever there's tragedy, I see people stand shoulder to shoulder who are completely diametrically opposed politically. But when it comes to being human beings, they're very similar. So I have faith in this. And plus, I have faith in the gun community because I know we're right. When it comes to the Second Amendment, I know we're right. I know we have the Constitution backing us. And I think we have the courts backing us. So I still think the year 2021 is going to be a year of wins for the gun community. I think people are going to come together more than they come apart. It's more important than ever that we start emphasizing our similarities, start separating our political ideas. When we try to convince someone to join our cause for the Second Amendment, let's not worry about whether they join us on abortion or gay rights or anything else. Let's just worry that they join us on the Second Amendment. Like I said, things like that I think can bring us together instead of divide us because, like I said, I have faith in humanity, and I think we're going to see that that's what's going to happen this year. Hey, I want to take a quick second here in the middle of the show here to plug the TYMPPP. That is the Yankee Marshal Posse Pistol Project. If you've never heard of it, go over and check it out on tympistolproject.com. If you want to support it, go ahead. There's a button there you can click to support the channel. Another way you can support my channel, my YouTube channel, is become a patron over on Patreon. That's the one way to support the channel. That's what keeps the lights on. So if you want to become part of what's going on over here on my channel, if you want to become part of the TYMP Posse or the TYM Posse Project, Pistol Project, go on over there, check it out. I hope you like what we're doing. I really want people to pay attention to the Pistol Project because if you're someone right now who realizes that it is important to exercise your Second Amendment right but can't afford to, there might be some options over there for you. So please go on over there. This is not a for-profit thing. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm actually trying to help people in need. So check it out. Okay, we are to the gun of the day portion of the show where I talk about a gun that I think needs some attention. The gun I want to talk about today is from a company a lot of people turn their nose up at, and it's Taurus. And the gun I want to talk about is the G3C. This is the successor to the G2C, which I have given away dozens of, and they were amazing guns. This gun is even a little more refined version of that gun. It's actually quite a nice little gun. A lot of people don't like Taurus, but this is quite a nice little gun. And if you're looking for a budget-friendly gun that holds 13 rounds, is very lightweight, is very small, this gun isn't much bigger than a Glock 43. It's a little bit taller and a tiny bit thicker, but very comparable in the hand to a Glock 43. Yet, this gun only comes in at about $300. It's reliable, it's well made, it shoots well, it's just a daggone good gun. People like to demonize Taurus, but there's no reason for it really. Now sure, in the past they have made some guns that weren't up to par with some more expensive guns or more mainstream American made guns, but their reputation for making bad guns is mostly undeserved because most every gun I've ever had from a Taurus, including their revolvers, is good. So in a day when a lot of people are out there buying their first gun, or maybe a gun for carry for the first time ever, and they don't have a lot of money to spend, this would be a great option because like I said, it takes a lot of the things people would be looking for in a carry gun and combines it in a very nice package for a very low price. So if you're in the market for a budget carry gun, I would definitely look at the Taurus G3C. All right, I want to close out the show tonight with a legislative alert that comes to us from the GOA, and this is regarding the state of Pennsylvania. There are some bills in the state right now that are waiting to be advanced in the Senate, but right now the Senate leader, a Republican, has not committed to advancing these bills. Now, these bills are HB 1747 and HB 2440. These bills respectively deal with a couple of different topics here. The first one deals with the powers of the government to remove or suspend your gun rights during a crisis. That's something governments have been very fond of doing. Look at Katrina, when the governments marched in, took people's guns. Police officers marched in, took their property without just cause. Because they said, well, it's justified because it's a disaster, it's an emergency, blah, blah, blah. Well, this bill would really reduce their ability to do that. It would also grant people the right to, during a time of crisis, to openly carry a firearm without a permit. So that if you have to defend your property, if you're in a situation where you can no longer count on local police or any type of formal political structure or social structure, and you have to defend yourself and your property, you can then carry a gun openly without a permit. So I think that's a very good thing. Now, the other bill deals with hunting areas, shooting ranges, other firearms-related businesses to where they could not be shut down if the government declares an emergency or crisis. It would give them standing as a life-sustaining business and industry so that they could stay open, feed their families, people could still have a place to go and practice, etc. So also a very important bill, maybe not as important as the first one, but still very important in its own right. So if you live in the state of Pennsylvania, call your representative, call the leader of the Senate, let them know where you stand on these bills. Tell them, hey, put your money where your mouth is. You say you're pro-gun, prove it. Pass some pro-gun legislation. We hear lots of people talk about how they're pro-gun when they run for office. We very seldomly see them do anything once they get there that is pro-gun. So here's their chance. Here's two pro-gun bills. They can actually do something. So like I said, call them, let them know you're watching. Tell them, you don't do something now, how will we believe you'll do something in the future? And why should we vote for you again? All right, to close out the show today, I want to let everyone know that we are doing a charity drive right now for Toy Guns for Tots. If no one's ever heard about that, it's a charity organization that I started myself, that I take care of. Every year I solicit donations from people, and then we take that money and we go buy toy guns for kids for Christmas. The reason I started doing this is because I used to volunteer for some organizations that would take in gifts for kids. I used to do some wrapping, stuff like that. And whenever we would get toy guns, they would put them in a box, they would take them to the store and exchange them for other things. And I was having trouble finding a local organization that would take toy guns and actually distribute them. So I decided, well, there's a lot of kids out there that want toy guns for Christmas, and they're not getting them because some charity organizations make moral value judgments that don't make sense to me. So I took it into my own hands to say, I'll raise the money, I'll buy the toys, and I made an arrangement with local sheriff's departments, etc., to distribute the toys without going through a third party. So if you want to donate, please go over to tympistolproject.com. There'll be a link in the upper corner of this video and in the description below. You can go over, you can donate to Toy Guns for Tots and help make Christmas for some very pro-toy 2A kids out there a very merry one. All right, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I hope you come back tomorrow. Because right now, like I say, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and it is what it is. But I think if we work together, what it will be is something better.